We're gonna take the classic Magna Doodle and make it out of wood. And today's video is brought to us by Delete Me. I'm sure you remember the Magna Doodle from your childhood. I found one at Target, and we're gonna take this, we're gonna get rid of the plastic and make this beautiful walnut frame that can hang up here in the shop where Daniel and I can write little to-dos. You got the positive and the negative. The erase. We'll make our own little magnet eraser, and then we'll make our own frame for this. This is just so fun. The drawing board doesn't lay flat on this plastic piece because it needs room for the magnetic eraser behind it. I'm gonna start off with a piece of plywood, then I'm gonna route out a pocket for this to sit in, and then a pocket below that for the eraser. I've got a template taped down to my piece of plywood. It's the exact same size of the drawing board. I got a big base for my router that's gonna reference off that template, and we're just gonna route out a pocket. Always check for spiders. I got a pocket within a pocket. My magnetic eraser will sit in the deeper pocket, and then this will sit on top of that, like so. We got the pocket for the groove that's going to hold the magnetic eraser. So now we're gonna work on the magnetic eraser part. I think this is gonna be really simple and easy. I'm just gonna cut a strip of plywood here that's going to hold the magnet, and then we'll cut a piece of wood here that'll fit into that groove. Got some pieces cut for this. So this piece is going to go in this groove here. This piece will get glued onto that, which will then hold our magnet. And then this whole thing will slide back and forth. I got that all waxed up. That rides in there real smooth. So now I'm just going to glue the magnet onto the eraser. This is way bigger than what I want it to be. I made it oversized just to give me options down the road here. So it's gonna get cut down. I think I'm gonna take this big chunk of walnut and cut some pieces off of here that's gonna be glued onto this piece of plywood to frame this. Once I get this covered with walnut, I'm gonna do something a little extra special. We're gonna make some sort of doors or some way to hide the messages. I don't want people watching the videos reading my business. For the bottom piece, I need to cut out a little slot for our eraser knob to pop through. I could do this with the router. I'm done using the router for today. It's my least favorite tool. I'm gonna use the Ragejet R400 for this. So that worked out really well and way easier and faster than a router. Do we glue these things down next and then cut out that to size? I think so. It's looking a little plain right now. Stick around, hold on. We're gonna fancy this guy up. You haven't seen fancy until you've seen the end of this video. It's day 2. I took a little nap. So before we glue these pieces on here, I need to glue in a little dowel for a knob for the later step so it sticks out of that guy. Glue that in there, and we'll leave that a little long because I'm not sure what we're gonna do for the knob yet. I'm gonna cut the plywood down to a rough size just to make it a little bit more easy to clamp and glue this up. And then we'll cut it to its final size after the glue dries. So the trick now is to make sure we don't interfere with that peg sticking out. Move it all the way to the right, center that, put a clamp on there. That's gonna look real good. We're gonna let that dry for a little bit. This will get framed and then doors will go on top of that. We got that all cut down to size. I went ahead and then milled up some more walnut that I'm gonna use to frame this entire piece. And I'm gonna use my miter sled here at the table saw to create miters. That's just what you use a miter sled for.
Use a miter sled to create miters?
Yeah. That's where the name comes from. So we got really good miters there. So we are going to just let that dry. So now I'm just gonna work on the doors. All walnuts is beautiful, except for this piece, which is just mostly sapwood. So we're gonna use this for the doors, but I think I'm gonna get a little fancy with it and veneer the outsides of it with some veneers.
You're gonna veneer the outside with veneers.
I'm gonna veneer the outside with veneers. Like, I am dropping some bombs right here on camera, Daniel. So I'm gluing up all of these boards to get one big front that I'm going to veneer and then cut in half. Here we go. Daniel asked for the squeeze. We're getting that squeeze, bro. Cut off the excess. Maybe. It wants to. All right, so that is dry enough. We're gonna rough cut this over at the table saw. This sliding table is my favorite thing in the shop. I've got an entire video on making my favorite thing in the shop. It's worth checking out. It's pretty cool. It just makes my life so much easier. It's like having an extra Daniel in the shop. I meant to have the grain run up and down on this, but I got sapwood on one side and then heartwood on the other side. And even though the front and back is gonna be veneered, you would see that on the sides. And I didn't like how the one side would have the white sapwood. So I cut it so to go this way. And now the end grain is going to show on the sides instead of the top and bottom, and it will get veneered this way. The veneer that I'm using is this absolutely beautiful burl veneer that my brother gave to me. And it's stamped made in Germany. And then it's got this little stamp on there. Like, it's really old. It came from an estate sale. It's gotta be decades old on here, but wood is wood, right? So that is going to work. It's lost its straight edge. So I do need to cut 2 straight edges so I get a nice clean down the mid. It actually says made in West Germany when there was a West and East Germany.
Oh,
so
Berlin Wall, yeah.
Yeah, so that gives you a Berlin.
Oh,
Berlin.
dude.
Berlin. To cut this on a table saw, I can just put a piece of plywood over top of it and then run this through the blade. Lift this up, and we got 2 perfectly clean edges. We're veneering both sides, because apparently if you only veneer one side of solid wood, it'll want to warp on you. I'm a little worried that that's going to come through the burl veneer, so I'm going to put a little wax paper down. I don't normally do this, but it's pretty porous. And then you complete the sandwich by putting that on top. We can throw the whole thing in the bag. Close up the bag, and then turn on the vacuum. Somebody asked me on Patreon a couple weeks ago, what's the one tool that you wish you would have bought sooner? And I told them my drum sander. I actually take that back. I use this veneer press more than I use the drum sander, and it's just been the most handy tool to have in the shop. It uses science. It uses air pressure as a clamp. It's one of my favorite tools. just wanted to put a little chamfer on the edges right there. We got the plastic pen with the magnet in there. I'm gonna see if I can smash it open, get the magnet out, and make a new one. That's the magnet right there. All right, pull this out of the bag. There's a couple little voids in the veneer, so I'm just using some black CA glue. It's like epoxy, but much faster. I'm gonna use the step craft to add a special touch to the doors. I drew up a doodle monster, and I'm gonna use that as a fun design on the front. But before we add the finishing touches, I'd like to tell you a story about something that happened to me and my grandfather, who was 99 years old at the time. Grandpa Pachuto got a phone call from someone impersonating me. The imposter claiming to be me said that I got arrested and needed to be bailed out. This criminal knew enough about me and my grandfather to nearly convince him to wire the cash. Luckily, Grandpa Pachuto was smart enough to call me before heading to the bank to confirm the situation. The story is 100% true, and my grandpa, who's about to turn 101 years old in a couple of months, still talks about this all the time. How do these people get this information? By combing the internet and collecting your personal data. And that's where today's sponsor, Delete Me, comes in. Delete Me is a hands-free subscription service that will remove your personal information that's being sold online. Yes, you could do this by yourself, but have you ever Googled your name to see how many data broker sites you're listed on? It would take many hours and weeks of back and forth to get yourself removed, and on top of that, you would need to recheck all those sites for repeated removals. Here's how it works. You submit your personal info. I provided my last 2 mailing addresses and my current phone number. By the next day, Delete Me found nearly all of my old addresses and phone numbers and would ask me if this was me. By answering yes or no, I was able to find even more public information. In just a few days, I got a PDF report of all the data broker listings with my name and whether or not I was removed or in the process of being removed. This is an ongoing process through the entirety of your subscription, and when I log in and look at my dashboard, I get graphs of progress and what type of personal information is being exposed, including how much time Delete Me has saved. When someone searches my name, I don't want them seeing my past court records or who my relatives are. I want them to see what I choose to be public. And if you find your personal info on a site not monitored by Delete Me, you could submit a custom removal request. As I have learned personally, privacy matters. Having all your information public can lead to annoying robocalls, scam emails, identity theft, and fraud. So, if you want to get your personal information removed from the search results on the web, go to joindeleteme.com/makesomething. Delete Me is offering 20% off their privacy plans to all my viewers with the code DAVID. Again, that's joindeleteme.com/makesomething, promo code DAVID. I went ahead and attached embellishments to the doors, added some hinges, and applied some finish. If you think this was cool, then you will love this video where I remade the classic rebound game out of solid wood, and it came out absolutely amazing. Be safe, have fun, stay passionate, and make something.